The following programming is sponsored by Tom Toole III. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. She's Stacey Mitchell. We've got Gabe behind the camera, and we're coming off a holiday weekend. However, there's a lot of real estate news. There's a lot of talk going on about shifting markets, sellers freaking out, and that's exactly where we're going to start. And again, Sarah, Stacey, and I, we all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. You can find the live stream on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So, did you guys get a chance to see the CNBC interview with Glenn Kelman, CEO of Redfin?
No.
I watched the video. I mean, I'm not glued to CNBC all day long. However, what I found very interesting is that he came out and said in the interview, and we're going to deep dive a little bit, and you know, there's a lot to unpack here because Redfin's got some of their own issues going on with their stock price and everything else. He basically came out and said, and this was shocking to me, he used this language, sellers are starting to freak out about the housing market. What do you think about this? I mean, is this what should a CEO of a publicly traded company be talking like this is probably my first question.
I mean, I'm a little surprised that he came out with that language. I don't know if he was just like trying to, get some, not like clickbait, but like, just make a strong statement there. I feel like that's a bit extreme. Although, for sellers who have been out there and have been like on the fence about putting their home up for a while, I mean, we are starting to see, the playing field looks a little bit different. It's still very competitive, absolutely, and sellers still have a great position. But we are starting to notice a couple changes, I feel like, as we're writing offers for our buyers.
I have to agree with that. Again, I think it was a bit hyperbole what he said, but yeah, I don't think sellers should be freaking out. I know there's sellers that feel like they're on the verge of missing out on an incredible market, but it's an amazing market right now. So it might not have been like super, super incredible, but it's still amazing. There's still multiple offers. There may not be up to, as much as 12 offers, but we're still finding ourselves mostly in multiple offer situations. So sellers shouldn't be freaking out. They should be preparing, being realistic about the change in the market, the shift in the market. Start to really prepare. If they're serious about listing, sooner is better than later. So definitely get everything all lined up, meet with, interview your agents and get your house on the market. It's still a great time. You're still going to capitalize on, the appreciated values. You're going to be able to cash out at, an exponentially nice return there on your investment.
Yeah, I thought it was a little irresponsible to say sellers are freaking out. I mean, yeah. I haven't seen anyone freak out yet. I don't know what you guys have seen on the front lines here now. And also too, Redfin attracts a certain kind of client. So are they attracting a kind of client that is uber price sensitive? I mean, it's extremely price sensitive. Or, the people that usually use Redfin, I don't know that they understand the market the best in a lot of cases. So that was pretty interesting. What he also said in the interview was rates are probably going to be 6%, inventories are increasing, sales volume will be somewhat fine, but prices are going to soften. I don't know what he's seeing, that he's seeing so much inventory increasing. It's been pretty nominal. We have seen a little bit of an uptick in terms of what inventory's done for the month of April and the month of May. We're not quite done yet, but we're here on the 31st. So I don't totally agree with that. And what he really talked about was that buyers are kind of backing off a little bit. There's some folks that have decided they're just not going to transact whatsoever. And sellers are getting worried because they're not getting like 10 offers. They're only getting 2 or 3. And that's very real. He didn't explain that, though. I mean, and I think that's the problem with coming out on a news outlet like this and starting to shoot your mouth off when you're supposed to be looked at as an industry leader.
Right. And I mean, and I think what's important for sellers to keep in mind, too, is you don't need, for multiple offers, you don't need 10, 12 offers in order to have this be a success. You need all you really need is one
good
one.
offer.
Right. That's all you really
Right.
need for there to be a positive outcome here. And I mean, I think in a lot of cases we're seeing still more than one good offer. You're still getting a handful.
Mm-hmm.
What he also talked about is that, and what kind of caused the freak out is that, we're going to belabor the point here, but the number of homes that are coming to the market, they dropped to a record low in March, and then which was a 50% decrease from 2 years ago. And March was an interesting month in 2020 because of the pandemic and the timing and everything else. And what he went on to say is that it's going to be the secondary home markets that get affected, and that I do agree with. The first, it's not the meat and potato stuff that people are moving to constantly, like your $300,000 to $500,000 home in our marketplace. There's always going to be a market for that because there's people that move up, they move down. It's the secondary market that might get a little slower. That I agree with because that's like the luxury purchase. That's where it's more of like a financial decision than what's right for my household or my family. So do you see that as kind of being more accurate here than some of the other comments that he made in the interview?
Well, personally, I have not seen that. I have a couple clients I'm working in that area, and it's still multiple offers going on.
In the
But it's
secondary
regional.
market, though?
Yeah.
So give me some examples. That's what I want to hear.
In Chadds Ford area, Kennett Square, Unionville,
Well,
Chadds
I
Ford
think
School
what
District.
I think he's talking about like kind of like those secondary markets though. Like they specifically mentioned a couple towns here.
Okay.
And when I say secondary market, I mean it's not like your principal residence. It's like a vacation market.
Oh, gotcha.
Or something like that. So that's
Wouldn't that be like an investing, like in those markets? Wouldn't they, investors?
And he also talked about. This interview was horrible. I mean, I've got to be really like it was all over the place. So when I hear secondary market, I think of like vacation markets or
Okay.
like down the shore or
Got it.
somewhere in Florida or something like that. He mentions Tacoma, Washington, and Sacramento, as well as a more affordable market in Sarasota, Florida, which I think is more like the Unionville Chadds Ford market you're talking
Yep.
about.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you seeing there? Because this interview was a disaster. I mean, go ahead.
Well, having relatives in the Florida market,
Yes.
they're not really seeing that much of a shift at this point.
Okay.
It's still pretty fast and furious and moving along pretty strong. I think because of people just relocating. There's still so many out-of-towners coming into Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily secondary. It is their primary. But they would be considered that secondary market, I guess, because it would be more of a vacation area or more towards, the beaches.
Right. So, I mean, I guess for our area, regardless of the climate and what's going on, I mean, we wouldn't really be geared towards secondary home purchases regardless. Right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, I mean, because we have such a large job market here. I mean, it's the 5th or 6th largest metro market, depending on how you measure it, and people have different ways of doing that. Tacoma, Washington. I mean, that's like I'm trying to think of a city that would be like it's almost like kind of like going to Lancaster or
Beautiful.
Well, but isn't that a little bit of a different market than Philadelphia?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that's maybe a better example, or even going to like Reading or like Wilkes-Barre or like somewhere like that where it's more affordable there for sure in all three of those places. And they also are the first ones that soften because when the market's really hot, what do people do? They go like really far out to get something affordable just to get a house instead of moving to where they want to in the first place. So that I do agree with. And I would say we even see that a little bit of that on like the edge of Chester County going into like Lancaster and Berks County. I've definitely seen that before. So that's the one thing I found that was pretty accurate in the article here.
Yeah, I would agree. Just that like people are having a little bit more flexibility to go where the price is right, versus like necessarily having to stick within, a certain radius of where their job is or, I'm seeing that.
Okay, so freak out was horrible.
Correct.
We can agree there.
Yeah.
Secondary markets might be getting affected. The rest of the stuff, though, I mean, what he's talking about isn't anything new. The tone in the interview to me was a little concerning. Now, the flip side of this, and this is some data that came out from Housing Wire, is that purchase apps, so purchase mortgage applications, instead of using the realtor jargon, they're back down to 2009 levels. So that's obviously a very different time. How do you interpret that as a reflection of the housing market? I'm clear there's some ways to look at this, and it's important to know exactly what's really going on instead of just assuming things. What are you two seeing because of that drop in purchase applications, or what's the driver behind it?
Well, of course, it would be because of the rates are ticking up. So I think it's just going to give some folks pause. They might just sit back and see, what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. But we anticipated the rates going up anyway. They had nowhere to go but up, really. So, and they will continue to rise.
Right.
So I really think that for buyers, they really who are serious or need to move, it's really still a great time because the rates are still in a really good spot. I mean, relatively speaking, we had historic lows. Like we've never seen them in the 2s like that before, even hovering in those 3s for that long period of time there. So people got spoiled.
Right.
People think this is how it is all the time.
Right. And I mean, the rate they get today might not be one that they go around bragging about, but it's manageable. It's, certainly the people that locked in those like upper 2s, like,
good for them.
Good for them. And they can certainly go around bragging about it. But you can where they are right now, you can. Is
that what you talk about at like dinner parties with your friends?
If I had that upper 2, it. That would
brag about that, right?
Yeah, every time. No, but but where they are right now, especially if you just compare them across the board to where they've been, you can still lock in now and be able to get the house and be able to live your life.
Right.
So
you get, lock in. If you're at 5.25, great. If it goes up in the next couple of months, guess what? You're in lower.
Right.
Okay. If it goes down enough, that makes sense. You can refinance. Mm-hmm. So, you really have to just think about the asset. Think about the asset that you're going to be, that investment that you're going to be making.
Right. Yeah.
What people keep forgetting about is inflation's at 8.5% right now through the beginning of the year. So even if you're getting 5.5%, you win. Like you've beat it, and you're putting your money in there instead of renting or in a home where you don't want to be. And there's a lot of folks keep forgetting this. So the other, and you guys are absolutely right about rates. The other thing people aren't talking about is existing home sales are decreasing, and that's another reason why purchase apps are down because there's just less homes that are going to be selling this year. Now, it's interesting when you look at this graph on Housing Wire that, I mean, you kind of, and I wish we could put it up for the radio audience here. We'll definitely get it on the live stream. I'll share this with Gabe and Nick. And if you draw literally a straight line from January 2009 to January 2022, now I would argue that this data is a little lagging because we've seen sales increase February, March, April. So, but if you look at just a straight line there, and where purchase applications totally dropped was in January 14 and 15. So it's interesting to me that no one was complaining about the market in 14 and 15. It was a pretty solid market. Just the lending standards were higher. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff, and this is just another one of these examples of these headlines that come out that are polarizing. And with the CEO of Redfin doing that, and I mean, they've got bigger issues. I mean, their stock price is in the toilet. I think people are seeing the value of a realtor more than ever now that the market's shifting. I'm clear on that. I mean, Redfin's stock price is down to $9.92, where at the beginning of the year it was up near $40. And I think that's a whole problem with the industry of what's going on with real estate stocks in general. And we're going to talk about another company that did a rebrand next in the second segment, Realogy going to anywhere, which is a whole other story. So it's these headlines that just keep getting people worked up. And the consumer that really wants to transact, they're not looking for that like part-time Redfin agent only paid on salary. And there's some good agents at Redfin. I don't want to say they're all bad. They just don't have the training and the knowledge base, which is a lot of times the problem. They're just they're literally door openers. And it's, you're not going to get the same level of certainty in making a big financial decision working with someone like that versus someone that's working on their craft like I know we do at our organization and a lot of other great teams do around the country. So do you think this stat's a little misleading as well? Or what's your take on it here?
Yeah, I mean, I think again it grabs your attention there, but as you dig into the details about what's actually going on, it's we're in an incredible market, and I think this the headline is just kind of clickbait.
He just wants to draw attention to himself and his company, probably.
I mean, they need to.
Yeah, right.
And even when you look at inventory levels, when you're comparing 2009 to what happened, and when the market started to shift, in 2009 there was an 8.8 month supply of inventory on the market.
Wow.
So it was up to 10.4 months in 2008. So it was definitely different challenges there. Prior to 2006, we saw kind of an average of 4.8 to 4.5 months from 99 to 2005. Then inventory jumped up a little bit in 2006. We saw the market kind of peak, and then the inventory trended high there for a while at 8.9, 10.4, 8.8 months in 2007 through 2009. So until inventory comes back up, I don't see any of this making a difference, because there's a simple supply and demand issue right now.
Right.
Rates aren't going to have a major effect on it. It's going to affect those buyers that couldn't buy anything in the first place, or they were losing out, or maybe their financing wasn't strong. There's a lot of those people that they got approved, but maybe they shouldn't have been buying a house. It wasn't the right move for them. So I don't see anything changing until we see inventory come up. I don't think there's any other way to slice it.
Right, and I don't see how is inventory going to increase at this point. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who, the boomers are staying in their houses a little bit longer now, and the millennials have gotten into the housing market. So unless we have a big building boom, which we have in the past couple of years. I mean, we've had, as a matter of fact, I think I read where Chester County had the highest building increase in the past 2 years than ever. I think that was actually my husband was telling me about that. He was reading me the real estate article.
Nice.
Good job, Kevin.
Yeah. So, which I was really surprised, but guess what? We don't really feel it. We don't really feel it. So where's more inventory coming from?
I would also argue that the bump in new builds is like a drop in the bucket where we live, because there's I mean, how many was it? I'd love to know like the actual unit number, because you see these you don't see any like these mega communities getting built. A lot of the stuff's like 05, 08, like that's when we saw there's not a lot of land available. I don't know where they're building this stuff. I mean, the Edgemont Golf Course by our office, that's one of the few larger new construction communities I've seen, kind of along that Route 3 corridor in like Edgemont, Newtown Square. But I mean, around here, you're in Lower Marion, Radnor, you're in Downingtown, you probably see a little more out there. There's a little more land, but the closer you get to the city, you don't see a lot. And then you also see a lot in the city because they're tearing down like old buildings and that sort of stuff.
So it says 3,743 homes were built in Chester County, more than in any year since 2001.
So that's a big number. That's more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it doesn't feel like that.
Right. When I feel like I'm seeing more like one-off new constructions, or, maybe they're doing a little mini development that has maybe like 10 homes in it. Right. Like I'm not seeing the, huge developments coming up.
I agree with that. So you got to watch what you say on the news is kind of the summary here. Purchase apps are down, but we still got a supply issue. I mean, I think it's really that simple. And I feel like part of our job with this show and our obligation to the public is to actually interpret what these people are saying on the news to what it actually means. And this is another prime example of someone, the market is shifting. No question about it. It's just not going to happen overnight like that. Right. And, so I think that's more what we need to be aware of here. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Realogy, who is the parent company for like Coldwell Banker, Century 21, all these other firms. They've rebranded to Anywhere. There's a lot to unpack there from like a business standpoint. So we're going to jump into that. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. That's TomToole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 1285001.
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. She's Sarah Tymon. We've got Gabe behind the camera, and we all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So we wanted to come back. And, you know, this is a real estate story, but I'd also argue it's a marketing story. It's a branding story where Realogy, and if you don't know who Realogy is, they own the major brokerages in real estate, and I'll name some for you. Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Corcoran, Sotheby's, and they changed their name from Realty Holdings Corp. To Anywhere Real Estate Inc., and they're going to completely rebrand this by the end of the quarter. And what do you think about this? This is a pretty big company to be changing their name.
Well, it's a big deal to rebrand.
Right.
I mean, that's huge. That's like there has to be a big reason to do that, to undertake an entire rebrand.
And I mean, is their main reason just because they eventually want to be competing with Zillow, and that's their and because it also sounds like they're doing kind of like a slow turnover, right? Like they're rebranding, but they're doing it like in phases so that everybody, I guess, feels comfortable with it.
I don't know the answer to that. They did have, I mean, they did have an iBuying arm, and that was a joint venture with Blackstone's Home Partners of America called RealSure. I mean, I would imagine a lot of real estate brokerages are trying to compete with Zillow.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that very well could be part of it. I mean, this is a huge company, and to me, do consumers even know who Realogy is, though? Like, does it make a difference? I mean, there's all sorts of questions that I have here, including their website. So you know what their new website is?
What?
It's anywhere.re. So it's not a .com.
Wow.
Which I mean, what do you...
They should have bought anywhere.com.
Right.
They should have just flat out purchased it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it says it's not only a business and strategic transformation, but also a cultural change. So what does that mean?
I wonder if something's going to come out about them.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's been so many of those stories that have happened. I mean, I just question when they're a company that big. And like we all know who Realogy is. Like we knew that because we're in the industry. I don't think consumers really care. They're more concerned about the brokerage names.
Mm-hmm.
The website is odd to me. I've got a little bit of an issue with that because I don't know. Do you go to any websites that aren't like .com? Like there's .io now is like a new one.
I would think they're kind of scammy or something, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or like you would just like forget and just like put it in wrong. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm
Exactly.
sure they'll have to do something to like account for that and just kind of try and like redirect or
Right.
something. But
It's
right, but you
difficult
should've
enough
just
with, like-
bought the .com.
Totally invest in that. If they're rebranding, if they're spending exorbitant amounts of money to rebrand,
Right.
you have to get the .com. I mean, it's tough enough with .org
Right.
and .net, you know.
Right.
But they're more accepted.
Right.
But
right.
RE?
Yeah.
Well, the anywhere.com is a travel agency.
Oh.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right. Well, the travel agency is going to get a lot of traffic on their website if
Yeah.
people are. Again, though, Tom, how many people know who Realogy is?
I think that's one factor here. I mean, when I look at this, what they came out and said, I mean, Ryan Schneider, their CEO, he said, we are a home to dynamic portfolio of real estate brands that each have their own unique story and power in the market. I do agree with that. I think all these brands are a little different depending on where you are. And as they set forth their bold customer-first, agent-led strategies, it was clear there was one brand that did not carry the same emotional connection, the Realogy brand. The Anywhere name and identity served both to our aspiration and commitment to changing the transaction experience for consumers. This whole thing here, I just don't. You've got to be really clear when you like change your logo as a big company, you change your name as a big company. There's got to be a reason behind it, and usually people do this when like something goes wrong,
Right.
and they're trying to, kind of have a fresh start, right? It's like when, I think of WorldCom as like the obvious example, right? Or these other companies that, look, Facebook's now Meta. I mean,
Right, I was
it's
just
kind of
gonna
the
say
same
that,
thing. So, when I look at this, I mean, Realogy's had its ups and downs. Their stock price has also not done well, and this might speak to a larger issue with, real estate right now is that the real estate stocks are just performing horribly. I mean, Realogy was down as low as like $3 a share. Now it's up to $12. But I mean, I remember, I was sitting in at the T360 event, and they asked Ryan Schneider on stage, like, "Hey, what's up with your stock price? Like, why is it so low?" So they weren't performing that well, and the whole thing here, like, I don't think many consumers are going to care. I don't know how they're going to, like, what's the plan? Like, what's the strategy to do all this stuff? I don't really get it. So I think that's probably the biggest concern that I have more than anything else is what's the plan here?
Well, it says they were hit with a securities fraud suit amid the falling stocks and shrinking market cap prior to the pandemic. So maybe they're just trying to shake that off, that or rebrand from any negative.
They also had a couple lawsuits with Compass, right? Like they were really going out. I mean, they've had a lot of legal issues. So that could very well be the case. This is just a big change to make, and I don't think the consumer's really going to care. And in fact, I don't think the consumer cares about the brokerage you work with anymore either. They just want to know what you're going to do for them as an agent and what's your presence locally. So, that's just my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree that your average consumer isn't going to care about this. That this is, I'm sure, a huge undertaking and a ton of money to invest in order to have this switchover, whether they do it as a slow changeover or they speed it up. And in terms of stock prices, like, I don't know that changing the name would make that big of a difference there, because if you're researching your stocks, like, unless if you switched for a reason, like, I don't know how well that would play out there. So yeah, it's kind of it's a little unusual, like why they're going about and doing it.
It's one of those more to come.
Right.
Yes.
We'll get the details later.
Right, exactly. Oh, that's why they're doing it.
Now it makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, like, what their game plan is going to be here. I mean, it's one thing to rebrand, like that's all well and good. But like, I mean, what's their end game? I mean, they changed the name. I mean, they have a large portfolio of companies, and what they're saying is that they want to do during their investor event is they laid out the next phase of their strategy, which is to leverage their market position and the ability to invest to improve and simplify the home buying and selling experience for consumers who are demanding a more seamless, integrated transaction. I hear this from every CEO in real estate. It's consumers want a more seamless, integrated transaction. They keep saying this stuff over and over. Who's going to do anything about it? When you look at what he said at the event, we read you that quote. What we also found out from the investor presentation is that they laid out their 2026 financial targets, including getting 20% market share through its accelerated expansion. That's a pretty big undertaking. 20% market share nationally is huge. Updated capital allocation, leveraging the company's cash flow. I mean, that's all business stuff. And when they talked about the rebrand, they're also saying it's going to allow them to align to a new enterprise positioning to further move its culture and talent strategy into the future. So it sounds like it's all about agent empowerment, but I don't know. This whole thing seems like it's kind of like just smoke and mirrors, and it's hey, we're trying to shed the bad rep we had before, and we're trying to just rebrand here as quickly as possible. I don't get much more than that. I mean, I just don't see a lot of value in this, and these rebrands always leave me scratching my head. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, we could look back and see how rebrands have fared for other companies, especially when they rebrand products. Many have not been that successful. So again, it's kind of like a mystery. There's a lot of clouds in why they're doing this. And it's always this, like, Tom, some of that language that you were saying, it's a lot of like mumbo jumbo words all mixed up, and cultural this and strategic that, and but what does it really mean? It all sounds good, and maybe they're hoping that this rebrand will totally make their brand stand out more than others and excel their profits.
Yeah. I mean, I think in order for them to be successful, they'll need to have these other pieces in place that they're using vague language about for what it means in order for the rebrand to do anything. Otherwise, if you're just rebranding the same product, whatever your issues for the rebrand would still be there down the line if there's something that you're trying to make changes on and don't put that in place.
And there's been a couple like rebrands like in their subsidiary companies. Like they Century 21 changed their logo a couple years ago. So did Coldwell Banker. A lot of people said it looked like an MLS team logo when it was done. So many of these people talk about like what the goal of the rebrand is. So I think the better question is, what's the most powerful brand in real estate? And not from a company perspective, what do you think the consumer cares about here?
The consumer, they want to get their house sold, or they want to buy their house, and they want to have the most smooth process.
Right.
That's what they want.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that there's too many people that like they may be like losing the word that I'm looking for. Tied to an agent, or they may have loyalty to a specific agent that they've worked with in the past. But my guess would be if that agent switched brokerages or switched companies, if they kept in touch with that agent and they had a good relationship with that agent, they're going with the agent. They're not going with the name of the brokerage.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. And what these companies are missing, and there's probably some reason behind it. Who knows what we're going to find out. The most powerful brand in real estate is the local agent brand. That's what people want, especially now that the market's going in this other direction, because more and more we see that we're having to go back to things that we did in 2020 before March, meaning negotiate home inspections.
Yes.
Like nurture someone through the process, not just buying the first home that they see. There's all these different things that are happening, and the agents who have the knowledge base, who can market themselves locally, because look, it's great. Someone at Anywhere Realty or whatever, or Coldwell Banker in California, they're not going to help you here. And I would argue that these brands are all different in local markets. There's some companies that are stronger and weaker in other markets. So to me, if you're not marketing yourself as an agent, or you're not connected with one of these mega teams that are dominating the local marketplace, you're going to get lost. Nobody cares who you work for.
Right.
I just don't think it matters anymore.
I also I don't love the name Anywhere. Like I get that they're trying to say that, like, I'm guessing they can be a good fit for you anywhere, but I feel like it kind of
has like a negative,
right? It
doesn't
kind of
it?
yeah. I think it works better for travel.
Yes.
I
want to go anywhere when I travel, but not necessarily buying a home.
Right. Like I think that you want that like local expert, and I understand what they were trying to get by calling themselves that, but I don't know that it like brings in the positive vibes that maybe they would be hoping for.
They paid a lot of money for this, I'm sure.
Oh,
And the
gosh.
fact that it's got this kind of reaction, I mean, it's not a good start. So we'll leave it there. So we'll see. I mean,
Anywhere.
I'm gonna give this rebrand a thumbs down. I don't know about you. I just don't like it. I don't get the strategy behind it. I don't think the consumer's gonna care, even though they're saying it's consumer first. I really don't think agents are gonna care.
Right.
Agents are gonna be looking at how can I further my real estate business. So to me, it's a little misguided here, and it seems like they're trying to do something that is gonna wash away the whatever negative context that the Realogy brand has.
Right.
All right, so we're going to come back. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about, I would say this is a frightening statistic about the number of agents who have not sold a home yet this year as of May 26th. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
All right. We are back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. She's Stacey Mitchell. We've got Gabe behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group with RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So, trying to find this post here on Facebook I wanted to share with everybody. But before we get to that, there was a frightening statistic that came out from a couple of real estate coaches last week that as of May 26th, so right before the holiday weekend, 40% of agents in the MLS have not sold a home yet this year. What's your first reaction?
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell me more about WOW. What I mean, I was shocked to hear that,
Yeah.
and these numbers always blow my mind. But like, what makes you so wowed by this?
Well, I mean, I think that we know that like it's a small percentage of agents that do the most business, and I what is it? 10% do
20% do 80% of the
something
like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's not when you know that that's that it's like people that are closing deals and selling houses they have their foot on the gas and they're the ones that are consistently doing that. That, for that percentage of agents out there that maybe just do this like part-time or just occasionally, that like occasionally get a sale in. There's obviously a number of those out there too, but I am surprised that 40% haven't sold a home.
That's very high. I mean, even if you're a part-time agent, and I mean the market is still amazing. So if you don't take advantage of that and try to do one or two during that time period, like then it's going to get more difficult.
Sure.
As the market changes. So yeah, I'd have to think, okay, how many are part-time, or consider them part-time, or just consider, well, I'll just hang out until Aunt Betty wants to sell her house and I'll help her sell.
Right. I mean, I guess we would need to know in other years, is that a consistent percentage across the board, that there are just that many agents that are technically licensed and subscribe, are members of the MLS, and they never really sell homes, because that number does seem really high.
Mm-hmm.
So this was shared at a national real estate conference, and what I know is that the industry's, it's always been saturated with people that they think it's going to be easy selling real estate. Right. I would argue this is probably one of the harder jobs out there.
Oh yeah,
but it looks easy. Doesn't cost a lot to keep your license. The average agent only sells 4 to 5 homes a year anyway, so maybe they're off to a bad start. Who knows? And what I think that my takeaway from this is that we could see anywhere from like 25 to 35% of like licensed realtors be out of the business. We're already seeing it go the other way for the first time in a decade, and I think we're going to see the same thing with loan officers because the refi boom's all kind of dried up. So this is just the first sign, and we saw similar numbers last year. I think it was about like 45% at the beginning of May hadn't sold a home. I actually have notes on this. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. It was this time last year in 2021. Let me see if I can find this here. And it's just, I mean, how many times do you see that though? It's so common that my aunt's a realtor, my uncle's a realtor, but they also have another job and do something else, and
exactly
the consumer's the one that suffers. So, like, is this a sign of like the market getting hard? Like, when you hear that stat, what's your like? What do you think is the cause behind that?
Well, I guess I'm curious to, like, of this percentage of agents, have any of them tried to do a sale this year? Like, is a large chunk of those truly agents that just have the license, renew it, and like, just, whatever, I have it, it's fine. If something comes to me, great. If not, whatever. Or like, how many of them have been out doing the work and just haven't successfully, I mean, I'm sure that number is smaller. Like, if you've been out, really hustling and, trying, and you still don't have a sale in for the year, then that might be the agent that then walks away and gets out of the business, versus the agent who is just passively being an agent, and then, they might not care.
Right. Because, I mean, it is tough, especially, if you're up against multiple offers and you keep getting shut out. It's demoralizing.
Oh, yeah.
So I could see where people who don't have that fortitude and just can't accept rejection, they like hate rejection over and over.
Right.
You're going to be like, oh, I'm hanging this up. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They watch a lot of television shows, programs that have, glorify all these realtors and their lavish lifestyles. And people have this conception or misconception that that's what we do all day. We sleep in late, we answer a couple phone calls, we open these wonderful doors of these wonderful houses, and everything just falls into place, and we're just making money hand over fist. Right. And then when you come into the reality of it,
sure,
like, your phone's blowing up at 11 p.m., you got a million emails, and everybody's hounding at you. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. So they could be the folks that are just like realizing this is not for me.
Right. Well, and you also, if you're this far into the year and this is your primary job, you're not part-time, I guess you'd also have to think, how long can you sustain not having a
great
paycheck?
Question. Yeah.
Right.
Like, how much of a savings have you built up to allow yourself to to keep going if you are really out there doing the work and you just haven't been able to get anything under contract.
Right. And then it becomes real and frustrating. And then you're looking at other options. Yeah.
Right.
Unless you have something or someone that can supplement you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this number was the same last year, by the way, too.
Okay.
So but there's also less homes to sell. There's more agents getting out of the industry. The other stat shared was 90% of all deals are done by the top 15% of realtors in the country. So it is that 80-20 rule, just always fluctuates. So knowing that's the case, I mean, so I think the question is, I do agree, things are getting a little harder. There's realtors that kind of got lucky, did a couple deals last year, caught the right lead. Mm-hmm. That's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a good point, Sarah. Like if you're doing all the things, the realtors that aren't selling homes, they're not the ones doing all the things. It's either a skill-based or an activity-based issue, in my view. And some people just can't close. I mean, that's the reality of, like, they just don't have that innate ability to get someone to say yes. They don't know how to ask for it. They can't do it in a way that's going to be, and it's not a judgment on them. It's just not the right job. And to me, great salespeople are found. You can't make someone into a great salesperson.
Right. We
can make them into a great lead generator and a converter, but you have to have that ability to have that conversation with someone to get them to a yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be number one. I do agree the market's getting harder. I think that's another challenge here. I mean, are you guys seeing that too? Do you see people giving up a little more? Like, what are you seeing on the front lines?
Yeah, that started happening late last year. A couple of clients, they just, if they lost out, I had a couple that lost out on the first, and it was just, that was just too devastating for them, and they were out.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was more talking about agents. Do you see agents giving up?
Well, interesting. I've talked to an agent or a couple of agents that, they're just not interested in. It's tough. They thought it was easier, and they realized that it's not as, they unfortunately don't have the support of a team like we do. And where they are logistically, there's not a great team that's close by to them where they could jump on board. So the realization is that, like, hey, this is not so, even in a great market, even when buyers falling from the sky, so to speak, it's still very difficult. So it's a lot of frustration on their part. And they're looking for other, or going to stay in what they were doing prior to real estate. Right. Mm-hmm.
I would say I've actually seen, and I'm just trying to think back to my social media feed. I would say in the last 2 months, I've seen 3 people become agents.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, how long will they stay agents? I don't know. How successful will they be? I don't know. Right. But in the last 3 months, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 people, and not all of them are local to this area. Some of them are in other states and whatnot. But I can think of 3 people that have popped up on my feed in the last 2 months that have become agents.
Yeah. And the other thing, speaking of teams and no teams, I would like to have more information about these agents. Are they on teams, or are they just independent in a brokerage firm?
I would imagine it's got to be both, though. I mean, because we run a team, and we've had people come on, and it's interviewing is a skill, and this is something that gets lost. Like they have a great interview, and then they come in, and then it's like, who was this person that we interviewed? And then they're out of the business because they don't know what they're getting into. And I think the amount of work is real. This job isn't for everybody. And
I guess, how long does somebody's stat stay in there? Like, if they went into the new year as an agent and they quit or they stopped doing this back in February, are they still showing up as an active number that makes up this 40%?
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably going to be like a little bit of
There's
a lag.
Probably a little bit of a cycle.
Like licenses just got renewed, right? Literally today. Yeah. So.
Oh, so that might change.
That could definitely change for sure, because there's going to be some people that are like, I'm not going to. It's only $96 to renew your license, but some people may be like, you know what, am I really going to do this?
Right.
So I agree with you, Sarah. There's always going to be people getting into real estate. I don't think that's ever going to stop.
Right.
And the flip side is you're talking to folks that you're running into, and I this is the first time in a while I've seen people at scale, kind of where we've seen the number drop. I mean, the stats are real. And so to give everyone some perspective here on realtor demographics, This is mind blowing to me. I'm going to give you these numbers. This is these are 2020 realtor demographics. The median gross income of realtors was $43,000 in 2020. Most realtors, tell me if you believe this or not, but this is from NAR. Most realtors worked 35 hours a week in 2020. I mean, I may worked like 35 hours the past like 3-4 days.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
Like, I mean, that was mind blowing to me. So
They
maybe
shouldn't say work; they should say coast.
yeah, well, that's probably one. But you're not used to this. You're not in that environment where you're seeing all these other people. So I think does that give you some better perspective on this?
Yeah.
When I think that shows you also that obviously backs up the number of the percentage of people that do the most work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting in far more than the 35 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not even close. So, it's important to kind of realize the stats that we're dealing with here. So, knowing all of this, I mean, do you think this is going to be a trend we see where there's more people getting out of the business? Do you think you're going to see more movement? Like, what do you see? What does this mean for the industry? And then the last question I'll ask, and we got like 4 minutes left here. What's the strategy that's going to work for agents in 2023 and 2020 and the second half of 2022?
So I'm just trying to think about for like interactions that I've had with agents that maybe are no longer in or like backing out. And I would say for what you come across, so like if you have buyers and you're working with a listing agent, now every once in a while you'll find one that you're like, how did somebody hire you? What is going on? But usually if you've gotten to the point, and not in every circumstance, but like if you've gotten to the point where you've got the listing or where you've successfully brought in buyers that are placing an offer, they're probably people that are doing things and are more likely to get some traction and to not necessarily walk away. I'm guessing a larger number of the people that are going to be backing away are the ones that you've never even really encountered because they're
not doing anything.
They didn't do anything. If they tried, they weren't able to even successfully like bring in an offer that, got your attention or, so I don't know that it would be something that you would necessarily notice it in your, like if you're keeping track. I know that Stacey has a ton of agents that she's worked with on other sides of the deal that like has done repeat transactions with. And, these are probably people that aren't walking away, you know? So I'm thinking you wouldn't necessarily notice it just in your daily encounters with like repeat transactions with people. It would probably be the ones that you never even knew were in it to begin with.
Right. I would think that, what is the average age of an agent?
52 years old.
Okay.
That's the median.
Gotcha. So there's probably, I'm sure there's plenty of agents that have been in the business for a very long time and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to ride this wave and then sail off into the sunset after it starts to decline. Mm-hmm. That could be happening too. I mean, there could be some that, and Sarah, you and I have probably worked with a couple of them and wonder how they're, still doing wet signatures. But they might decide to, you know what, it was a good run and I'm going to get out. And then there's the new folks that, or the newer folks that are, frustrated with the market and it just might not be for them. So I always think there's going to be those folks peeling off.
Mm-hmm. And the median experience level, to give you some perspective, is 8 years. Okay. So, you bring up a good point though, Sarah. Like, the amount of transactions I've done, these offers have come in. I don't know who these agents are. And I've never heard from them again. So, and you're talking about like thousands of sales. So that's a really good point because you can always get lucky. You can always find those couple of deals that you can close, and the people are just going to buy the home because they want to buy the home, and independent of what advice their agent's giving them. Mm-hmm. It's the agents that don't have difficult conversations with folks. Those are the ones that I see getting out of the industry because they don't like to have that uncomfortable conversation that, hey, you're making a mistake by not coming up a couple $1,000s here. Hey, this is a mistake not to adjust the sales price of your home. Right. And those are the folks that always end up doing more business if you have the toughness to actually have that conversation. So last question, then we'll wrap this for this week. What is the strategy for agents who are looking for that breakthrough to get out of that 40% category? What should they be doing?
I think they need to be in tune with what is currently going on in the market and what is going to get both if you're on the buy side, your client's offer accepted, and if you're on the sell side, what's going to get that to the closing table and what are realistic expectations to set so that
love it.
You're setting clear guidance.
Right. And if you are having struggles and problems, maybe find a mentor. Go to somebody who you see, that's getting the deals done. Go to them. Ask them, what are you doing? What's different? What's working for you? We do that in our team.
I love that. I got 4 things.
Okay.
This is the 4 things you want to focus on. We're getting played out, but it's that important. 1, conversations that are two-way about real estate. You have to have the most conversations, and you got to track and measure them on a week-to-week basis. 2nd, appointments that are getting set so you can see your ability to have conversations with people and actually have them want to meet you to serve as their agent. Appointments that are met, so the ones that actually happen, the face-to-face meetings with real consumers. Again, these all need to be tracked and measured. And 72% of consumers work with the first agent they meet. Really critical statistic there. Yes. I'm going really fast. And the last one is the number of leads that you're working, because not every lead is going to turn into a sale. You typically need like 3 to 4 leads to get to one sale, or 3 to 4 referrals to get to one sale. So I'd be looking at conversations, appointments set, appointments met, incoming leads. That's what we got this week. You can follow Sarah at Ty_Ty_Time on Instagram. Stacey's at the number 2 Mitchko. I'm at Tom Toole 3rd. You can look up our team. Just Google Tom Toole Sales Group. We're here every week, Tuesdays at 3 o'clock on Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.